Not many people in their low 20s understand complexities in the 3PL space. I happen to be in my low 20s flying around. I took 80 flights in 2022. I was still in school. I was just always in warehouses buying and selling goods. And I saw a lot of problems in the quoting process and the operations process and a lot of other things.
Hey, I'm Vishesh, your host. I'm a 5x founder and CTO. Still building, I also help founders like you ship faster and fix what's slowing you down. More at vishesh.space.
I'm joined by Ryan Kalisky, co-founder and CEO of WareMatch, a platform connecting suppliers and 3PL vendors globally. As a 26-year-old McGill finance grad, Ryan is trying to disrupt an unglamorous $1+ trillion logistics industry. We explore the honest reality of early-stage marketplace building, the hacks they've used so far, and more. I am always excited to talk to marketplace founders, and listening to how WareMatch is building a 3PL marketplace should be gold for any founder building a marketplace.
Hey, hi Ryan. Thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So you're a finance guy, you have a finance degree. You could have done fintech, crypto, AI infra. Why the hell warehouses? I'm sure you get that a lot.
Why, you don't think warehousing's a fun industry? I thought they went to school to teach us finance to do warehousing. I thought that's what they told me to do when I went to school. Guess not. Yeah, so I was in finance at McGill. I was a very different person than I was now. Top student, 4.0 GPA the whole way through. Few internships in finance and real estate and logistics, actually, like logistics finance. The job every finance kid wants is investment banking. I got a job at Scotiabank in Canada, in Toronto, in real estate investment banking. Realized that it's not what I want to do. Long story short, I had a very early case of COVID. I was the first case in the region of Quebec that I had that I live in, and it was so severe that I got quarantined for 6 weeks, and I got put in the hospital in a glass box, basically, like this, in the psych ward. And the hospitals, they were all lacking supplies, and I was like in the countryside, and they had to drive into Montreal to get supplies, and I realized the world's in panic and there's a huge shortage of supply. So I ended up just, throwing away my finance job basically and saying, I don't want to do this. And I'm going to try and, capitalize on an opportunity of buying and selling nitro gloves during the COVID pandemic. Took about 5 months of cold calling random people. My family didn't understand why I wasn't doing finance and why I was trying to sell medical gloves after they paid for my school. I don't really know why I don't really know what I was saying. They probably thought I was crazy. About 5 months in, made no money. Was just cold calling random people, pretending I knew what I was talking about. Honestly, I had no money left, and about a week later, I ended up getting a government contract, brokered a couple $1 million deal where I met someone who had money. I met someone with supply, and I met someone with a contract, and I bridged a deal. From there, started flipping medical supplies. It turned into a company. And they started generating more money than I'd be making at an investment banking job. So I said, you know what, for the summer, I'm going to just do this and see where it goes, because networking is very important. During the pandemic, a lot of people who usually wouldn't take your call took calls. There was urgent needs for goods, so people would get on the phone with whoever they could to get the product quick. And pricing was all over the place, so it was a very interesting business space to be in as my first venture. Long story short, I developed a pretty cool network of people and companies in the medical supply space, and a lot of people who got into medical supplies during COVID are in other industries, but they got into it because there was a money opportunity and a need. So I ended up leveraging a big network of mine for other opportunities over the years, and I had a packaging operation going on and some other stuff. All in all, whatever I was doing involved logistics. And my logistics part of my job was I'd buy goods, I'd have to store them in different 3PLs, and then I'd have to ship them out. And, although there are lead generators for 3PLs and matchmakers and whatnot, what they really act is kind of directories where they show you them, and then you still have to call the 3PLs, and you have to speak to multiple sales teams. And whereas in freight, you kind of get your LTL or your truck pricing for, from location A to B. distribution, all my contracts, and I was a tiny company, obviously, one-man show moving containers. I had different certifications I needed to involve. Sometimes I was storing alcohol, sometimes I was storing vacuum containers, sometimes I was storing gloves, sometimes I was storing masks. There's a lot of different dimensions and shipping patterns with the goods and also my customers. Vacuum containers, which are the tubes that they collect blood in, I would distribute those, and those basically get shipped out in much smaller quantities because they're smaller than big boxes of face shields or something else. So there's a lot of factors that go involved into getting quoted out in the 3PL space. And what I realize is there's no streamlined way to get quotes from many 3PLs at once. There are only ways to be connected to them, and then you have to speak to them individually. I was pretty young. I had this idea that the matchmaking, there was no massive matchmaking guy. Like, for example, if I could go and if I went and asked someone, um, if Vishesh, you're in India, I'm in Montreal. If I said, hey, I want to find an apartment for the weekend in Venice, what would you tell me to do?
Go look at Airbnb or,
Yeah.
any rental site. Yeah.
So typically, like most people would tell you just check Airbnb. I was asking pretty big companies I was dealing with, like, hey, like, don't you find the quoting process a bit annoying in the 3PL space? How do you know you're getting the best deal in the 3PL space? Like, you're getting a deal, but typically you're comparing a few options and then one of them's better, but your sample size is small. So you could give me a directory of as many warehouses as you want, but I'm not going to speak to all them because I don't have the brain power to look at all the different quotes and analyze all the numbers. I'm going to want to analyze a few.
Right.
Some people gave me options, but not everyone gave me the same option. So I realized, you know what, there's room in this market to grow in, to tap into. And then I looked into the ones that I'd get recommended to, and I just realized they didn't really help me much. They were just the only options. So in my mind, I kind of connected it to, like, you know, there are people selling, there were people selling books online before Amazon came in, but that doesn't mean that Amazon can come in and make the industry way more streamlined and advanced than those previous booksellers. So, my co-founder Ben, he was in the Airbnb space. He's a best friend of mine. We grew up together. I also had my own company for years, and I was kind of just like, you know what? I want a partner because it's much easier to organize when you're working with someone. You could think together, the upside together, you have the downside together. There's a lot of things you could do. I told Ben, I was like, hey man, like, there's a huge gap, I think, in the 3PL quoting market. He, said, let me look into it. He did his own research. He said, I agree. And then we basically said, let's get an office. He also had a company of his own, so he wasn't tied to a job. We both said, you know what, let's go take all our money, pour it into this project. This is obviously after extensive research. I'm not going to bore you with that part. And we said, let's start it. Let's try and, we're 24. While everyone in the industry, this is important, everyone who understands the issues I was talking about was either way too much into their own business or too old, like, too into their career to want to change an industry. So not many people in their low 20s understand complexities in the 3PL space. I happened to be in my low 20s flying around. I took 80 flights in 2022. I was still in school. I was just always in warehouses buying and selling goods. And I saw a lot of problems in the quoting process and the operations process and a lot of other things that we could talk about when we get into our product. That I figured, you know what, I was 24, 25. Why not try and change, come in and change an industry?
And so you guys have been around for how long?
We raised money in March. Now we met. So basically, me and Ben grew up together. We were in the same office we are in now. Now it's much more decorated and many more desks, which is great. And we're not tech guys. We know nothing about software. Well, now we know a bit more, but we were just two guys in the business space, and we wanted to build a software. So we said, okay, well, what are we going to outsource? Are we going to find someone like who's going to want to just work for very little and equity and an idea that, and get equity and idea that we have to teach them. So we interviewed a ton of candidates, skilled graduates, university, great GPA, software engineers. A very important thing for us was that our engineer had to be bought into the concept. And he had to understand everything about logistics, because it's not like we wanted to it's not like we wanted to create a new product. We wanted to create a software that has to abide by standards in an already very alive, archaic industry.
Right.
Whoever will be developing for us has to understand freight. We found Rahul, and he just wants to be rich. So that's it. Uh, Funny story is Rahul told us he was 22 when we brought him on 2 years ago. And he sleeps on a blow up in our office. He's from Edmonton, flew down here, sleeps on a blow up, and works day and night. Gave him some equity, paid him whatever it is. We found out now he's 22 now. So he was actually 19 then, and we're 27. So we realized he's very young, and that's why he was so motivated. He did not want to get a job. Well, he actually had his own company at 19 where he was basically taking on projects. And a lot of people who aren't in the tech space, like myself, don't realize how easy it is to build some things. So he was just outsourcing tech to India for very cheap and then charging companies here a ton of money for his services. And he was
Right.
laughing at everybody. So he had a business sense in him. But at the same time, that meant that he had a very cool network of engineers in India. He's connected to the universities there, and he's not just outsourcing agencies.
Right.
So me and Ben wanted a fully in-house team where everyone's bought in and working full time. And that's what we build now, which is great. We believe that if you want to build a project, everyone has to be all in, or an agency is just going to shove you to the side. And if we're a tech company for people, we can't be outsourcing our tech to other people.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we got into it.
And so you found him through you posted a job and then you
Yeah.
found him?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, me and Ben, think about it, we were 25, all our friends had jobs. We were just in the office in the dark all day, interviewing random people, making no money. For like 2 months, we interviewed people. We probably interviewed hundreds of people. And like, when you think about it, like, we basically found him on Indeed, and through a rigorous process, honestly. We had a buddy of ours, and I'll give him credit. He's the founder of another startup. He wanted to use our office space, so we let him use our office space as friends. But in return, he had to help with our interview process. So he ran the tech side of the interview to make sure that who was capable and who was incapable. And he told me, we had a whole report system where he told me who could code and who can't, because I didn't know. So I think throughout the process, a lot of things helped us along the way, and a lot of pieces fell into the right spot at the right time, which I think we could talk about later on in the podcast. But
And so you said that your buddy who was helping you with the interviews had some reporting and process. What was that like?
yeah, so I mean, look, it was a while ago now, but he made a sheet asking standard questions about. We wanted to build in Python because you can move quick in Python, and we wanted to build on the Django framework for similar reasons. Also, like, we knew we were building a big data room, so there's a lot of data involved in what we were building. We have a ton of data that we're going to try and help the industry with. So the languages we picked to build in, they are, good for that, to my knowledge. So he just had questions asking him about, like, what he knows about certain tech stacks, what he would do in certain situations. And he basically gave me a overview as to this guy's qualified, this guy's not qualified. But the truth is, Rahul's engineering got significantly better over the years, or the year and a half or whatever. He basically was doing way more work than he would do in a job, and he was teaching himself a lot. And we really just cared about how bought in he was to the idea. Because we had guys with like crazy CVs, but they were cocky a bit, and they're like, I want this salary, and like, I don't care, like, I just want to get paid. Where he was also like, I don't need that much money now. I love the idea. I want to be rich. I'm going to work my butt off till 3 a.m. for nothing for years until we hit. And now he has a team of 6 engineers under him, and he's 22, and he's everyone's boss. And when he could have had a boss, he's his own boss, and we're building some cool product, and he's seeing some great feedback and significant traction from really big companies all around North America. We even have buildings in Europe now, Australia, and it's a really good concept proving. So it fuels the fires also.
Yeah, it's good progress. And so what's been the hardest thing about building in an industry like this? Especially because you're coming from outside. What's been the hardest thing?
In the 3PL space, within the warehouses, there's so many types of warehouses, and every 3PL offers their own services. They offer their own certifications. They all have their own values, etc. They're all their own businesses who want to show clients value in different ways. So we had to build a software that allows all these people to be able to market all of their services, value adds, and whatever they want in a very user-friendly way, where they don't need us to even onboard. So that took a ton of feedback, because you go down the rabbit hole speaking to a few companies what they want, and then another company wants something else. And something we do is like when you onboard it, there's something that we don't ask you that you don't want to tell us. Please tell us so we can add it. And we do that in a tech way, just whatever. So it's like a lot of building and coming back and then building and then reiterating. And it's not the tech you're reiterating, it's the business model. Because we're building a tech behind the business model that we didn't create. The industry already did.
And so for people who are not familiar with the space,
yeah,
you are matching warehouses with people who need warehouses in a nutshell.
So 3PLs, and I know I've said the word a bunch, are third-party logistics warehouses. These are companies, either they rent their own space, and what they do is they warehouse goods for companies for a fee. If you think of, let's talk about, I always ask people, like when you buy things off Shopify, for example, like where does it come from, right? If I asked you that, like where what would you say? When you buy most things on Shopify, like how does the goods get to you, like from being created typically?
The shop owner has an inventory stored somewhere, and the order goes to wherever the inventory is stored, probably a warehouse, and somebody processes that order.
Yeah, so like most people are in today's day and age are used to just clicking a button and receiving goods, but the whole world is run by logistics, and the 3PL space is huge. Multi-trillion dollar space. Typically, big brands, they want to distribute all around the world, but they don't own warehouses all around the world. So they send their goods to these third-party logistics warehouses, where whatever the goods are, these warehouses could store it for them, and they could handle all the orders for them. Right? So you know how like Amazon FBA, with your seller, they warehouse it for you and then handle the shipping. 3PLs basically do that for every other brand who isn't Amazon, like big companies. And we deal with billion-dollar companies who have to distribute goods all around. They don't have warehouses all around. And goods, like think about goods that are frozen or have some temperature requirements. You need to be storing them in a location that's close enough to your customers so that they're not sitting on a truck for many hours when you want to deliver them all the time, right? So within this industry, there's many different types of goods, many different types of orders that different warehouses need to accommodate. So basically, 3PLs are warehouses that service goods for customers, and they're not leasing the space to them. They are getting paid, and they have workers there to be able to do all the work, and that's their business model. So what we do is we have a multiple, parts of our product, but on one end is we basically tell brands, give us your information based off what the goods you need, based off the information you need. We're going to show you the best fit PLs in your area. Okay. Whereas before they'd go to a directory and they'd have to go call them each and then fill out all their Excel sheets that they send them, because each 3PL will send you an Excel sheet with like questions asking you about your goods, and filling up the form many times is annoying. So we basically take the information once, kind of like Expedia does with travel stuff. With travel information, we show them the best fit 3PLs. We allow them to send their information to a bunch of 3PLs at once. Okay. And then what we've really created, and what our main value add is we've created a bidding system for 3PLs. So now 3PLs could bid on contracts from brands, which lowers the cost for brands, and all brands want to save money. So when we brands and say for free, give us your information, we're going to go and act as a tech consultant. So we're going to have your suppliers, who are your warehouses, bid on your contract to lower the price. For the brand, it's lowering the contract. And for the 3PLs, it's giving them access to business that they didn't have access before. Because a lot of 3PLs, their pricing is based off of their cash flow situation or their demand and supply. So they have room sometimes, or they don't. What we do is and a lot of times 3PLs could quote a brand up and then never hear back because maybe someone else won the deal or quoted it at a better price for the brand or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We give the opportunity for the 3PL to quote out a brand, and then for them to see the best fit, the best priced quote by another 3PL. It's anonymous though, so I don't know who it is, but they just see the benchmark pricing that if they want to win the contract, they would have to be at, or else they wouldn't win it anyways. Mm. And a lot of times in the industry, these 3PLs don't win deals, and they don't know why or whatever. So now we give a bit more visibility to that. And yeah, now we have a whole other product where in the 3PLs, they have websites to market their services, and a lot of them are companies who own maybe 5 to 10 buildings or rent or operate them. When they market their locations on their websites, the locations that their location pages are pretty static. It's like it just says like we have buildings in 5 cities or links to the addresses on Google Maps. We've created a way for these warehouses now for very cheap to create their own mini websites using our software where they white label all their listings to their own company, where we can now replace their portfolio page or their location page with a page that has all their listings in one spot that anyone could go click on and send them information on the goods. So we built a CRM for them to receive information, but also all the value adds they offer, all the certifications, all the amenities, services. These are all important words that we actually index on Google for them to optimize their AEO and their SEO. So that's a separate product we built for these warehouses, because Airbnb is a bunch of people marketing their apartments. We're a marketplace where all our warehouses all have their own sales teams. So we now built a separate product. While we have a marketplace where we have a sales team that's acting as an extension of theirs to bring them leads, we allow them to use our software for their own marketing team, because a lot of these warehouses, and Rahul realized this when, because of his old business I spoke about before, they all spend a lot of money on not such great website designers or engineers. Yeah. So we now charge a massive fraction of the price where they could build it on their own, and it's all AI generated, but they could create their own website in 1 second, and they could change the information just by going into their WareMatch portal. They don't have to go and contact a website guy to say, hey, we just got a new certification in this location. On their own, they log in and they could change their listing in 1 second, and it automatically updates, and we pay for all the hosting and all that web stuff. So we become an SEO, AEO optimizing platform where 3PLs can market their services to their own clients in a much better, more digitally friendly way.
Interesting. And so this is a two-sided marketplace. Who did you go after first? Did you go after the 3PL warehouses or the customers or brands?
I mean, yeah, there's the chicken and the egg. Our goal was we need to load this up with supply, because there's so many types of different 3PLs with different value add services, etc., that we want to make it so any brand could come on here and they could have a big enough sample of any type of warehouse that will find them the best deal. Because what we really are is a bidding system for 3PLs. If you only have one 3PL in each division, there's not much bidding, because, for example, if there's 5 warehouses in Toronto or Montreal, example, but only one of them has a hazmat certification, and the brand needs hazmat certifications, only one warehouse could actually service him, right? So we want him to go find the 5 with hazmat and have them bid on it, for example. So supply was first. Now, the thing is what we've realized is a lot of our demand actually comes from 3PLs. Because let me tell you something. You have a 3PL in Toronto, and your customer distributes goods all around the world. He now stores with you in Toronto and asks you if you also have a space in Chicago. Most people these days will say, no, I don't, only Toronto. Now they could come on WareMatch, because what we've built is something that's very transparent, and they could actually use our network to go and close deals on their own, or we have a whole referral program where they can now monetize their referrals, send them to WareMatch. We'll find the best deal, because any directory out there, you could get a list of the warehouses, but you're still on your own to find the best deal. We actually tapped into the quoting process as well, which is where we stand out. So we got demand from 3PLs who onboarded, who said, hey, yeah, I'll sign up. By the way, I have demand there. Can you fill it? That would force us to go to that region and onboard more buildings, right? So there's a bit of a chicken and egg, but mentality-wise, we wanted to go supply first. Because supply also, basically, when you speak to a bunch of 3PLs, you understand the complexities that they have with their marketing. So a large part of our process is to build very robust tech while taking feedback from the users, because the users want to give us feedback, because we're helping them with very archaic methods they use. They're marketing with email and calling and networking. We're saying, hey, why don't you, we are the industry niche marketing, or any other marketing company, they don't understand logistics that well. Our platform is designated for the 3PL space and the industrial real estate space.
there are clearly things that are working, but what's not working or what has not worked?
What has not worked? So I'm going to say something, and not to say that nothing's not worked, that we're operating in a very researched way
Right.
where like we're only deploying things once enough people in the industry tell us that they like it.
Hmm.
So like there are startups and like, 90% of startups fail or whatever the rule is. When you're building a product that you just want consumers to buy or a new technology, for sure, it's a bit riskier. But like, we're not a new technology. We're using technology to just simplify and streamline an already very alive industry that just happens to be archaic. So we only really build things out once enough people say they will use it already. And when 10 people say they like it, the odds are the other 5 also will like most of it. So it's not that we're geniuses, but when all we're doing is listening to feedback, it's tough for things to go wrong when you move methodically. If that makes sense.
And so you have some competition, Flex, Flow Space. Like some of these guys have raised hundreds of millions. How do you think you're going to be able to sustain the competition?
Yeah, so we like they are competition, but we don't see them as direct competition for some ways. Look, they're all great companies. They do a crazy amount of business, but we've done there's parts of each of them that work for some companies and don't work for others. So, for example, Flex is a massive company. They kill it. There's parts of their model that we wanted to stay away from for ourselves. For example, they float the payments, so they handle the payments. So they owe the warehouse the money, and then the brand owes them the money. I've met companies around the world, and I've become CEO. I've become friends with CEOs of companies all around the world in the logistics space. We talk about, different mythologies of, payments. It could get sticky if you get stuck with a bill where a brand doesn't pay or whatever. So I've spoke to a ton of 3PLs who have dealt with these companies, and they tell me what they like and what they don't like of them. So we try and accommodate the things they don't like. So 3PLs don't Flex has to pay them, and there's a bit of friction there. Flex also, they have their own warehouse management system that they kind of want to control the whole deal. And 3PLs have told me that they don't love using their software. They want to use their own because there's many good softwares out there. For example, the way with us is the brand connects directly with the 3PL. The brand pays the 3PL. The 3PL pays us once they're paid. So we trying to eliminate all friction from the competition. And with us, we're a place where these 3PLs could actually market their own softwares, and they use their own softwares. They don't have to use Flex's, right? So Flex is big because they bring big deals. PLs, I'm sure, love them, but some of them have some issues with their business model. So we kind of said, we'll do it in the way that makes sense for you. And then, I mean, stored massive company eating a bunch of companies up. They're asset based now. So they used to be a marketplace, but they're asset based. Flex is more like us because they're matchmaking. But Stored basically was matchmaking, but then ended up buying their own facilities. And honestly, I think a lot of partnerships they had with the 3PLs kind of got tarnished because now they became competition.
I see. They cannibalize their own
Stored is
market.
actually someone who could market on our marketplace now. You understand? And they had a marketplace. They transferred to the asset base. Thing is, I think that the technology today is much more advanced than it was 8 years ago. So they probably killed on the marketplace. And the whole mentality is like, while Stored they still killed it with the marketplace, I'm sure. I don't know their financials, but clearly they're very big now. That industry is only growing.
Right.
And we are dealing with crazy cool AI technology that we're building a marketplace in a modern day and age, right? And even in the last 5 years, there's so many tools that help you build faster and help you analyze data that we've added way more features than just matchmaking. Like we are a whole marketing tool for them as well. And the whole pitch or demo is, hey, we're the first company where you could come on like Wix, where you could kind of make your own website tailored to the 3PL space. And you can make listings rather than just pictures of your properties.
Right.
And at the same time, included in this, your listing gets cloned onto our anonymous marketplace. And we have a sales team that's going to bring you extra leads. And you're now in the race, in the bidding for our deals. So now you use our site as a software for your own marketing, but we also bring you business because we have your data, or not data, but we have the information on your building. and your availabilities that you could tell us, and we could bring you business. No 3PL can really go on a real estate platform and post. They can't go to a broker because their availabilities are constantly changing. They always have goods coming in and out. So there's too much data. It's not the space for a real estate broker, and there's a disconnect between the industrial leasing space and the 3PL space, which is like retailing space. They lease big buildings and then they rent out by the pallet. So that's actually why we've created a lot of these 3PLs expand their operations. They get a contract in another city, so they want to go lease another big building. 3PLs, all our users, if you go on our website, you see a bunch of buildings. They're all tenants, right? They actually take up 35% of industrial leases in North America. Okay. So we've now also created a marketplace for landlords who usually go to brokers to market their buildings. They can now come on for $100 a month a building, make their own very user-friendly listing and website with all their buildings, and market it directly to 3PLs who are looking to expand.
Oh, wow, that's it.
So the same way that Facebook started as a way to just match people, we built people call us the Airbnb of warehousing. I consider us more of the first bidding platform, but we're also a marketing tool. Facebook now is many things because it's why it's many things? Facebook is connecting a lot of people who didn't know each other, while we are just connecting a bunch of 3PLs and brands who didn't know each other. But even the fact that we're connecting 3PLs who didn't know each other, there's a lot more product we could build to help them all rather than just lead making.
Right.
There's products in the pipeline that are going to streamline the whole quoting process that ties freight to warehousing, buying goods. I'm not going to give too much out now, but we're building, and because we have raised a few $1 million, we actually have in-house engineers. Our competitors are more like Pop Capacity or Chunker or Fulfill. We have the tech they don't have because we actually have full-time engineers working full-time, and our users who have been around and know all the competitors, okay, they come and tell us that our tech is significantly better in the last 10 months than competitors are, and those competitors have been around for 5 years. So we're building at a much better pace because the other companies, I think, are outsourcing tech. I don't know what they're doing, but clearly we have the tech advantage, and that's why we're building so much product in the last few months, because that's why we raised money. We basically said, we have a great business model. We need more engineers to build product quicker and faster. That will make us grow faster.
And so you are a fairly young team and coming from outside, you're not you were not part of the industry. How did you get people to talk to you and get feedback?
Yeah. So firstly, I had a network from my other company. But like every time by the end of once I had the idea come up, there's probably a year before anything started, where while I was going to warehouses to buy goods, I would then go and sneak and talk to the warehouse operator and ask him, hey, like, just question, like, how do you get, when you quote someone out, is it annoying? And they're all like, yeah, we have to use Excel. Because you go to these really big warehouses, and operations and technology in the warehousing space is very, very advanced, right? But that's for when you already have goods in your warehouse, right? But for receiving quotes from incoming new potential people, um, um, it's very outdated, where you go to these massive, beautiful warehouses, and while they have all these crazy softwares to like organize their inventory, when I ask them, like, when you have to quote someone out, how do you do it? They're like, oh yeah, email and Excel. These guys get paid a salary to perform, and then they get budgets to spend on marketing or whatever. So if they could use a tool that can make their job easier, and the owner of the company saying, hey, let me design it customized to you, they're like, okay, yeah, I'm down. So it's very easy to get feedback when you're actually making someone's life easier.
What's something you believed about building startups before you started that turned out to be completely wrong as a first-time founder?
That's a good question. I mean, I didn't really realize I was building a startup until we honestly were going to start raising money.
Right.
One thing I didn't realize is how much the idea is going to change over time. We had an idea, me and my co-founder. You think you know an industry. You say, if I go look at my first we'd like presented, I remember, like, to like big companies a year and a half ago of the crappiest tech, but just a business model. And if I go look back I have a video of that of our business model, the business model we're proposing. Some things is I don't know how we even were thinking about it, but like, and the thing is, like, we didn't really do much wrong because me and my co-founder were very, very open-minded the whole way through. A lot of founders screw up because they have this idea and people tell them feedback and they get offended and they just they don't want to listen. We, the whole way through, we're both very relaxed people. So we took feedback with a very open heart and we actually implemented it. And then 2 months later, we'll go and get on another call and say, hey, we actually listened to you. Look what you just did. Like, this button on our side is because you said that 2 months ago. And everyone's like, oh, wow, thank you, you know? So I would tell myself, like, you know, the product will be much different than you think it will be. I mean, the software looks so much different than it did before we raised. I can't imagine. It's very cool to see all the progress that we had now. One of our investors invested a bit with an option to pump in more now, and they've been following the software since the beginning, and they're like in awe and can't wait to. They want to put more than they even said they would now because they can't believe we're here in such short time.
Hmm.
And that's really just because we've been open-minded to feedback. And the thing with us compared to competitors, by the way, like there's Racklify, which is a directory. We don't scrape the web. Every listing on our website is managed by a warehouse. And we do that, A, because it's actually transparent and the information is valid because the warehouse themselves put the information in.
Hmm.
But B, that's where the quotation gets streamlined. Because Racklify, I'm very cool. They're a directory, but you go and they do advertising and stuff. But when you go call, they have 10,000 buildings. So, you know, but if you go call one, you're calling a number and you're kind of like then speak to a sales team. You don't even know if you're speaking to the right person
Hmm.
because they're just scraping the web and uploading them. With us, the second you put your quote in, the guy who's managing the listing, who's the sales guy at the 3PL, is receiving the quote in his email and in his notification, checking his dashboard, and he can quote you out right away. So it streamlines the actual process. We just care about getting scopes, and we just care about actual like deals going through in a very streamlined way than showing thousands and thousands of buildings that don't even know about this website. So we're
Yeah,
keeping it
it's not
exclusive.
public data. And so how are you recruiting these? Is this like a standard cold calling playbook? How are you getting these 3PLs on
I mean,
that
so
marketing
we
product?
look, we're getting more and more people on from ChatGPT and
Ah,
SEO.
SEO.
That's great because look, there are it's a there's very few competition in terms of SEO in the space. There's a few companies who are dominating the space, but because the space is so small in SEO and AEO for 3PL matchmaking and marketing, like it's a very niche space. They've been around for a while, so they're leading the space, but our month-to-month progress is going like that while theirs is like that. So it's an easy space to take over with time, right? But we're seeing very, very good results because we're basically investing all our money we're getting in more marketing to really build the marketplace, the network. So in due time, we're going to be at the top. But the truth is, we have sales guys full time at our company who previously worked as 3PL sales reps, where they were going to find brands to store goods in one building in Montreal or two buildings in Montreal. I said, hey, you want to come work for us where you could actually go and close deals in Boston and Texas and all these places where before, if you had a deal in Texas, you had to say, sorry, I'm only in Montreal. So we also have internal sales guys who are going out for their own dollar. They're on low salary because they have good commission structures and they can make a ton of money here with all the supply they have. Now they could actually do deals worldwide. It's bringing us demand and supply as well. And we also have this network effect going on where 3PLs literally can't take demand and refer their friends. You know, everyone goes to the conventions, everyone knows each other. So now they all like to help each other because if you're in Texas and I'm in Boston, we're not direct competitors because no one needs us at the same time, right? So they're all like, look at this site, it's great, user friendly, and it's actually transparent. So it's organic, it's really organic, and we're also adding value where it's a mix of we have cold callers. The cold callers are all guys who have been in the space for 20 years and see value in the product, so they're really passionate about the product. To put you on with my sales guys, they thank me every day that the product's so easy to sell. They go, man, I've been in logistics for 20 years. thank you so much for building a product that I could go on, make a quick pitch, and then they go online and they tell me how nice the tech is, and it's an easy meeting to book. The product also works for itself. Like the product sells itself. It's getting a lot better.
Yeah, so you have a few streams of ways to pull the supply side. For someone listening who's building a marketplace in a boring industry, what's the one thing you'd tell them as a marketplace builder that no one else would?
Listen to your users. When you're building a marketplace, it's because you're building something that is in an industry that already exists. For a
Right.
marketplace to happen, you need people to be interacting, and you cannot tell people how to act. You are building something that just accommodates the way they already act.
Hmm.
That ties to the question before, where it's like, you're building this thing. We're doing well because we're not telling people how to act. We're not saying you should want pricing like this. Like even pricing, like some people have different methods of pricing. At first, we're like, this is going to be our revenue model, but we've made it so malleable that it's like, you do you, and we're just here to accommodate you, you know? So whatever industry you're in, whatever industry you're in, you need to speak to a ton of people in the industry before you build it. Because in tech, if you build something and then it's wrong on the business model side, you have to go back and rewrite a lot of code and it loses you time. So one thing about our tech is we've built a team that is very organized now and everyone really likes each other and we have a system going on where tech only gets built once a business model or an aspect of our marketplace is confirmed by speaking to the users.
Hmm.
And then I would add to that you got to make sure your users are interested in your idea, because that means they'll use your marketplace. A big validation for us was before we even built code. And I flew Rahul in. I mean, me and Ben, we flew Rahul in just to meet warehouses before any code went in so he could understand the industry. And you got to make sure everyone on your team understands the industry also. But just so we all could make sure that the users, the 3PLs that we spoke to, said, that's a good idea. I would use this, because there's no marketplace if no one's using it. That's what I would say.
Yeah, the thing I've seen as well is people, especially building marketplaces, they try and, because they're trying to disrupt an existing ecosystem, a lot of times they will try and change how the marketplace works. I think the more you can replicate what they're already doing and then incrementally improving, like you said, would probably be a much easier route. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
It's
good
not
insight.
easier, and it's also it'll get you further, because the marketplace aspect is it's a very user oriented space.
Right. If you could send a message back to yourself, day one when you started all this, what would that one thing be?
I would say that there's a lot more there's a lot more that's going to go into this project than just business and tech.
Hmm.
When you're running a software, there's a lot of risk for your early people in the company, and there's been so much stuff that comes along the way when we're trying to get to launch, where like some things will always take longer than they are expected to. And not only does that affect the tech part and the money part, but it could affect the mindsets of your people. And there were things that had to happen for us to get to launch that have nothing to do with warehousing, nothing to do with tech. Things happen in personal lives. Now you're managing people that they all have their own personal lives and their girlfriends and their this and their that and their parents. You have like productivity. There was a time where before we launched, productivity got slowed for for a personal issue with someone that we actually, as a teams, like helped them solve their personal whatever it was, just to make sure that their spirits are high and they're ready to work, and they were very grateful for that, and it makes you closer. So, getting close to your team and making sure that everyone wants to work together and like each other has a significant effects on the success of, or we're very early still, but on the improvement of the company's trajectory.
Yeah, so yeah, so the message you'd send is hire people who love working together.
Yeah, like hire people that love working together, but also like understand that like everything's going to take longer than expected. Like when here, let me just add something. When you budget your expenses to bootstrap a project until it's time to raise or make money, add time, because stuff's going to take longer, and you need to manage your finances also, because you can't just build something. I'm confident if you want to build a big project, you have to put a lot of time into it. which has monetary effects because you're not going to be working on other things. So just make sure you budget in a way that you don't run out of money and you could eat food and sleep at night while you're building.
Well, we should do this again in a year or so.
Yeah.
And see how things are.
For
But
sure.
Ryan, thanks for joining me today. It was a fun chat. Where can people find you and follow you and your journey?
Yeah, WareMatch.com is our website. WARE match, so like warehouse match. And we have an OpenAI integration now. Anytime you want to find the 3PL on a on ChatGPT, that's the place to go, as well as Google, LinkedIn, and there's we're a really good solution for any brand 3PL and even landlord looking for a new tenant.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me again.
Thank you.
If you found this valuable, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your favorite podcast app is. See you in the next episode.